What happened was.
Hey friends, it's so nice to see you. It's today, the time is now. You are here and the weather is outside your window.
Described by the New York Times as opera's nose-studded rock star, she's a culture-shifting queen who has dominated the world's stages and concert halls and is unashamedly and fiercely herself. Please welcome this week's guest, the one, the only, Jamie Barton.
Hi.
Hi there. Hi.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. It seems way too long ago that we were hugging each other in the basement level of the Met in between
Yes.
rehearsals. Hi.
Hi. Yes. Yesterday and forever ago. And here we are. Oh my goodness. I mean, this is a loaded question, but what has life been like since that fateful hug in the Met basement?
Oh man. Well, life has completely flipped up on its head and done a Rubik's Cube kind of thing, I think, for all of us.
Yeah.
But certainly on my side of things too. I mean, life is just, it's number one, what is time? And
What is
then
time? Yeah.
what is wibbly wobbly timey wimey thing. And then on top of it, a little over 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it feels like it was like simultaneously 10 years ago and also yesterday in some way.
Yeah.
But just like a completely different lifetime. Same
Absolutely.
for you?
Yes, absolutely. Exactly the same. 2019 sort of feels like graduating high school, and the last 2 years have been like entering the real world. And there's this nostalgia and, oh, I can't wait for the reunion.
Totally.
Yeah. And yet feeling like kind of in many ways a different artist, different person. Life changes we can't ignore, global changes, coming together as a community in new ways. And the fortitude.
I have to say though, I don't know about you, and I will preempt this by saying, like, I know that we've all both experienced and seen tremendous loss in this, and so this is in no way, shape, or form negating that reality. But for me, the pandemic actually has brought along a lot of silver linings in terms artistically, personally. Like, I am very much a different human than I was in March of 2020.
Right.
And I am glad of that. I'm glad of the recalibration towards balance that I've been trying to go for, which I had been trying to before the pandemic happened. But I'm quite honestly, I'm just one of the lucky ones that had a full-time career that just felt like I was like, okay, let's get on this roller coaster. Cool, we're strapped in, we're going.
Yeah.
And that is such a wonderful thing, but it also comes with its own challenges. And one of the big challenges for me was just balance in general, balance in life, balance health-wise, spirituality, artistically, like all of the levels were kind of that balance conversation was shoved to the side while I was like, okay, I have these contracts and I have to do this work.
Yeah.
And that requires almost full-time attention. And by full-time, I don't mean like work hours full-time. I mean like day in, day out, wake up in the morning, think of, like the words I've been studying the night before, whatever. Like, it was just all the time. And I'm so glad to be in a space in life, even if it is scary, even if we're right now, on January 4th of 2022, looking, I think, probably at potentially losing more jobs, which is really, really scary.
Yeah.
At the same time, I wouldn't trade this learning experience of, or maybe what's the better way of putting it? Not the learning experience, but the recalibration of priorities.
I think that's spot on. Yeah. It's priorities. And like you said, this is a full-time job and not just in working hours. And I bet you agree with me that our brains work while we're sleeping, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's like everything you were studying all day, then your brain takes over while you're sleeping and does all this work, and you wake up and you've done work, but you're exhausted.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. There
Yeah.
is, I don't know about you, but for me, especially when I'm learning something new, or even when I'm just bringing something back into my brain that I haven't been with in a while, I go hyper focus.
Yeah,
And
have to.
it's just like, honestly, for me, if I know that I have to be learning something, I almost always make sure that I study whatever it is that I need to study right before bed,
Yeah.
because I know that overnight my brain is going to be working. And when I wake up in the morning, best case scenario, I have a little bit more of it locked in. And, so that's just a very practical thing for me. But yeah, there's,
Yeah.
for me with what we do, there isn't business hours. It is literally when my brain wants to function. And I'm ADHD, not in the I'm ADHD. No, I am very ADHD. So when my brain wants to absorb, when it's in the space to be able to, then I have to let it do that. Do I get to make the decision on when that is? No.
No. No. No.
So the overnight thing is a real thing, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the legacy of being an artist and how many came before us in all genres who worked all night long and worked when inspiration struck, and the frustration of how many composers wrote the overture the morning of, and it's a thing.
Okay, Mozart,
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. It's just the way it is. So yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot in common besides opera. I know you recently got into crystals and rocks, which is a major thing.
I mean, they are flanking me, but I'll grab.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
As well, yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
What
Yeah,
do you
I've got
have
that.
there?
What was that?
What do you have there? I saw like maybe some obsidian.
Yeah, there's some obsidian. I've got this beautiful tiger's eye, garnet, which has become one of my favorites. This is a big old
Oh, that's
garnet
gorgeous.
that I got. We've got, here's a little lapis.
Lapis labs, yeah, that's my favorite. That's the
Yeah.
one.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's your favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
Yeah,
major
I mean,
throat chakra one, lapis. Yeah.
yeah,
You know,
I like I said, I'm flanked by them over here because this is kind of where I do a lot of work from. And the idea for me was what kind of crystals, what kind of stones would help focus me for attention,
yeah.
help feed creative, and I have to say it's so funny. I've always been drawn to crystals. Just quite honestly, I was like, oh, pretty, but
Yeah.
also at the same time, I am starting to learn about the properties, and I do find a difference when I have like my stones over here, just
Yes.
yeah, I mean,
Oh,
just
gorgeous.
all sorts of little things around the house though. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, there's something that it's like a childlike wonder. I don't know if you were a kid that picked things up and put them in your pocket, shells, rocks, pennies, but
Oh,
there's something that we do when we're children that we find comfort in these objects, and we can put our hands in our pockets and touch them and rub them. And
yeah,
I find stones and crystals have that same effect. It's just
absolutely.
yeah, my friend.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For me, and it's funny you should mention this, I not only have gotten into like stones and crystals and stuff that I can buy in shops and stuff like that, but I've gotten into rock tumbling and gemstone mining and stuff like that. So I literally, my rock tumbler is going in my laundry room right now.
Oh my goodness. Cool.
Like, what I love about this is the adversity or the pressure, the literal pressure under which some of these rocks were formed. Like, there is something really beautiful to me in the reminder that these were all formed in pressure, in, literally being, pressed, and the earth is creating them. But what comes out of it, and you can, if you go on TikTok or whatever and you're looking into videos of this, you'll see people mining gemstones from the earth, and it's just like dirt, dirt, dirt. crust, blah, blah, and then a beautiful, like what you have, a beautiful obelisk or something like that comes out of it. And it's just a beautiful reminder to me of how even when you feel like there is pressure and difficulty and strife, something beautiful really can emerge from that.
Absolutely.
And that to me is just a really powerful reminder, if nothing else.
Yeah, well, it's back to what you said about the silver linings of the pandemic, and through this difficulty and major challenges, we found these beautiful things and recalibrations that are really important, and hopefully will sustain. I hope we never forget these moments and we can carry these lessons with us.
Same.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you. I have been doing a little bit of singing and performing throughout the last like 9 months mostly. And I find myself naturally going back towards my old mindset, my old habits, old imbalances. But this new forward thinking thought of balance and of growth and all of that stuff, I'm able to, even if I'm in the middle of going back to the old habits, I can at least pause and go, wait, okay, let's make an observation and let's see if this is feeding me. Let's see if this is serving me going forward. And that moment to just be able to honestly look and see if it is a game changer. So
yeah, I had the exact same experience, and one of my demons is always thinking I'm gonna forget my words on stage, and there's always that voice like, you're gonna mess up, you don't know the words, you didn't put the time in. And I was back on stage for the first time, and that voice crept in, and I said, no sir, you're not welcome anymore. Like, we've changed and shifted perspective, and we do this for fun and because we love it, and it's supposed to be fantastic, and we're entertaining people, and we're not going to be brought down by these demons anymore.
Totally.
And, and they're still there, but it's like calling it out and saying, especially
no. You and I are sisters in Christ when it comes to the whole losing words thing. Like that is how my anxiety shows up. I can be in the middle of something. I have a hilarious story from when I was doing a recital years ago where I was singing Gretchen am Spinnrad. It was literally a song I learned in undergrad. I've been singing this as long as I have been a classical singer, and I got into a recital and my brain just kept on skipping tracks. I stopped it. I stopped the song. I apologized to the audience. I started again, and then it did it again. And I just knew it wasn't going to do it. And it's anxiety. It's overthinking it in the moment. Like, I'm so good at that. That really is my talent.
Yeah. Well, it's like jumping out of an airplane just to enjoy that free fall and not think about, oh, I might die,
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Well, and I don't know about you, but like the way I combat this, especially like, I'm going to say in a recital, but also in opera and performance, whatever.
Yeah.
If the music is coming and I know that I have this entrance coming up, there's sometimes where it just goes away. Sure. Like the words are just like, goodbye. And I have found in my life that actually when I lean into just being like, it's going to be fine. And I'm not scrambling to try and think of the words, but I let my muscle memory take over, and I try to let the mind just shove out.
Yeah.
Out of here, you're not welcome right now. Most of the time it works out. And every once in a while it's ahead of the time, and it stumbles.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're not curing cancer. We are doing our best to tell stories, which is a really necessary and important thing to do. But the human element of it is absolutely necessary to the connection element of it, I think. And those moments of mistake, those moments of the brain not lining up with what needs to be happening, they're human.
Yes.
And that's okay.
Amen.
And just like seeing it and going on is just a part of being an artist. It's not a bug, it's a feature.
Yeah. It's part of the whole thing. And that moment you talked about of allowing yourself to be comfortable with that discomfort and anxiety, it actually forces you to be present and to see the audience and to see your scene partners and to see the colors of the lights around you and something in someone's costume that you've never noticed. And that stuff is what connects us to each other.
Oh,
It's
totally.
yeah.
Well, and I can imagine, I mean, I know you come from musical theater, you've done Broadway, all of that stuff, especially when you're I find this when I get into a performance or a production where I've got a lot of performances, sometimes I space out a little bit.
Sure.
But I wonder, like, here I go, like, taking your show and asking you a
Please.
question. Like, when you have 8 shows a week,
Yeah.
how do you stay organic? How do you stay present? How do you stay engaged and make it the magical thing that you guys do when you do that?
Yeah, it's definitely hard. I'm grateful that my longest running show, which was about 2 years, I was on stage with like legendary comedians, you know, Nathan Lane and BB Newirth and like incredible people, Brooke Shields. And so those people at those at that level, I found there's a comfort in that they are almost, it's their neutral state to be on stage. That's where they're most comfortable. And there's a playfulness that you're allowed to experiment and do anything. And there's a deep listening that's happening. And there's a constant banter of subtext, you know, below the surface. And it's really fun and wild. And then on the hardest days, I think, okay, there's someone in the audience today that it's probably their first time ever seeing a show, and statistically someone that it'll be their last show they ever see. And I need to pull it out for them. You know? So,
totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Shout out, by the way, to a common friend of ours, Andrew Lippa.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. One of the greatest humans, but also one of the greatest composers.
Yeah. Well, and you've been crossing over and doing all sorts of incredible stuff. And you know, I have to mention, of course, your incredible like global change moment at BBC Proms. And you know, you're a Grammy nominee this year for Best Vocal Album, and you just sang Carmen for the first time with Stephanie Blythe. Like, you're a boundary breaker, and you know that. But something else we also have in common is that we represent queer culture in opera, which is something that, you know, sounds like, oh, opera, it's super gay, who cares? But it's not. It's actually like incredibly conservative in certain circles, and there is there has been a danger historically in being your authentic self. And absolutely. I really admire and respect how you represent yourself and have carved out this niche for yourself in the opera world. And you're really,
thank you.
Yeah, you're a role model, and a lot of people look up to you, and it's really important. Yeah.
I was one of those people who came out later in life. I literally and very honestly had not clocked that I was queer. I identified very, very heavily with it being an ally, a straight ally. But it took a divorce and me learning how to actually love myself for me to even begin to ask the question of, what if I'm into people who aren't dudes? You know? And when the answer came back and I, you know, fell in love for the first time, and it was not, you know, it was another woman and all of that stuff, it kind of bowled me over, because it happened when I was 33. Wow. I was really, really late to the game. But I think at least a portion of that was due to the fact that I came from a time where bisexuality, even within the queer community, was considered to be a fake thing. It was fake news. You know, like bisexuality is a myth. Even when I came out, and I say this with a lot of love for my queer friends, but like the pushback I got on me saying I was bisexual was pretty consistent. From mainly my queer friends, not so much from my straight friends, which might have just been my straight friends not saying anything. But like, I got a lot of you're a lesbian, you're on the bridge to lesbian, or a lot of like my lesbian friends I found were kind of like really unsure of me, and not there was some sort of like space, and it occurred to me later, after that process, that of course, like, this is something we've been told for years, is that bisexuality is just a bridge to queerness.
Yeah.
Which in some ways I understand exactly where that comes from, because we come from a history of people having to pretend that they were straight, having men and women having to marry people of the opposite sex, even though that wasn't who they were.
Right.
And so the bisexual thing in some ways I think was thought of as a cop-out to not appear gay.
Sure.
But when I came out and I really understood this about myself, and I knew that I was coming out publicly, I knew that I wanted to try and show up very much so for the bisexual community. Because I think it's really important to do that. You can't be what you can't see.
Exactly. Yes.
Woo! Sorry.
No, it's a good time. And I'm guessing you received a lot of messages from people saying how much it meant to them, perhaps because of how public you are. Yeah.
Especially after the proms thing.
Yeah.
And of course, with that kind of level of publicity around something happening, you're certainly going to get opinions from all across the board, for sure.
Yeah.
All across the board. I met a level of troll that I had never, I didn't understand existed before that. But
that means you're famous, basically. That's what that is.
I've arrived.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But honestly, though, at that point, I at least was far enough along in my life that the thought that occurred to me was, well, my point's getting across.
Yeah.
They understand what I'm saying, and the number of negative responses were just so far outweighed by the positive responses. To this day, I still get messages on social media from people who watch the proms, people from the UK. I have a lot of messages from people from the UK who have told me that they've been watching the last night of the proms for as long as they've been alive, and they've never felt like a part of it in the way that they did on that year when I got to raise the pride flag. That, to me,
that's everything.
It is literally everything that I'm going for in being a performer. I want the audience to feel seen.
Yeah.
I want them to feel, in whatever way, that me being on stage, especially the people who are queer, who are women, who are fat, who are whatever, if I'm up on stage, I'm hoping that I can open the doors of storytelling to tell their story in a way where, or maybe in a place where they didn't think that their story would be told.
Yeah.
And so it is literally everything to me.
Yeah.
To be able to accomplish that. And I feel incredibly lucky that the BBC was, so on board, so supportive. They hired me knowing exactly who I am. So
that's what's great about you and you being yourself, and how powerful that is. Because some artists never get to be themselves publicly. And
absolutely.
And it's
and a lot of that has to do with the support that's around me. I am one of the lucky ones that doesn't come from a coming out situation with my family where I was disposed of,
Right.
And I come from the South. Like that could have happened. That could have been the outcome of me coming out. But I come from a family that, even if they didn't understand or expect that kind of news, they still loved me. And they were still going to support me and still show up for me as family members. And that is a very, very lucky setup.
Absolutely.
And I just feel strongly that if I have that, and I know that a lot of other people don't, then I have not only an obligation, but it is my pleasure to be able to show up and say, hey, you're valid. your story is worthy of being seen on stage or on television or whatever. Because I don't have the barriers in some ways that other people have, you know, or have had in their own coming out. It's just, I think it's vitally important to the performing arts as a whole to be able to reach as many audience members as we can. So if I get to do that, I'm literally goal for the day done.
Well, I say this a lot, but I think the greatest power of the arts is the ability to develop empathy, and we really need empathy right now. That is it was my literal wish for the New Year, Happy New Year's wish on Twitter was for all of us to reach deeper levels of empathy. And I really mean that. I do too. That was my wish as well this year. So yeah, kindness, love, empathy, peace, and sometimes those things can sound cliche, but it's like there's a reason we say them so often, and we need to listen deeper to one another.
Yeah, absolutely, 1000%. It's because they're needed, and I think especially right now in this world, we need more of all of those things, more of thinking outside of ourselves, which is overwhelming. I mean, my own anxiety issues, my own problems, my own life, you know, there's plenty to fill my day with if I want to go on like a anxiety future tripping kind of thing. But that being said, it is empowering to me as a human being to consider other. I have found it to be empowering to myself to empathize with others. And there is a community that's created that I think the world as a whole could really benefit from in exactly those kind of cliche terms. So you and me, we're going to be cheerleading for empathy.
We're going to do it. We're going to solve all the problems. It's going to be great. Oh, well, can I ask you some silly questions?
Oh God, please, yes.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Where are you right now?
I am in my living room in Atlanta, Georgia.
Zodiac sign?
Libra. So very Libra. Like 4 or 5 of my houses are in Libra.
Got it.
My soul was like, we're doing Libra this time.
Well, I'm happy to report I'm a Sagittarius, so we're very compatible. So
no kidding.
Yeah. Okay, coffee or tea?
See, but hot or cold?
Uh-huh.
I would say hot tea, cold coffee.
Oh, okay.
I'm a cold brew girl, so.
Yeah. Well, the South, it's important. Yeah. I'm from Florida, so I understand. Yeah.
It's kind of the South. It's not exactly the South. It's below the South. Some
parts are the South. Some, the more north you go in Florida, the more south it is, etc.
It's true.
Yeah. Okay, this is very important. Favorite flavor of ice cream?
And I only get to choose one?
Yeah, just one for the rest of your life. That's all you can have.
That's just unfair, man. Okay.
You can add toppings though.
Okay. If I had to have one for the rest of my life, I am going to Salt and Straw, which is a West Coast place, and I am getting their their Mount Tam and Acme fruit bread ice cream. It is this unbelievable ice cream where the ice cream itself is made with a custard that's made with really finely grated Mount Tam cheese. So it's a cheese ice cream. Okay. And then they put sour cherry ribbon through it with these chunks of this like fruit bread that go into it. And I have to unfortunately eat around the fruit bread. I'm gluten-free, but like that ice cream is the perfect bite because it is savory, it is sweet, it's weird, it's out there. If I had to choose one for the rest of my life, it would be that one.
That sounds like worthy of a trip.
Oh, every single time I end up on the West Coast, if I'm in any city that has Salt and Straw, I'm going directly there. Like it's a must.
Yeah. I'll be adding that to my list.
Oh.
Okay. What is the first opera you ever saw? Your first exposure to opera?
That would be Così fan tutte, which I don't like.
Me either. Yeah.
I've never liked it. It's actually kind of a miracle that I ended up going into vocal performance in the first place, considering I saw that in high school.
Wow.
But that was the first one. It was a college production in my hometown. The first professional production, though, that I saw was Aida.
Oh, wow.
With the Atlanta Opera, and I had never experienced anything like that. Like Verdi live with those kinds of singers. Yeah, like
Incredible.
I think if anything hooked me at that early stage of my life, it was that one.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. When I first moved to New York, I answered an ad in the newspaper version of Backstage, and I got to be a super in Aida at the Met and wear like the loincloth and carry the spear. It was wild.
My friend Jaime did the same thing. It's literally the same thing. He has this whole story how they literally put him in a room. They were like, take off your clothes. Here's a loincloth. We're gonna make up and oil you up. Okay, side of the stage. What you're gonna do is you're gonna bring the scroll out to that guy, and then you walk off stage, and that's the end of the night, and here's your paycheck.
Here's your $20. Yep, totally. That's exactly what happened. Take off your clothes. Here's your loincloth. Yeah. So, yeah. Welcome to the Met. Yeah. So it was cool. But you know what? I stood on that stage, and I wasn't really inclined to be an opera singer at that moment or had any of those dreams. But I was like, I'm going to be back on this stage. I feel it. It's kind of cool, right?
And you were. And you were.
Just, little cool New York moments.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right, back to you. You can spend a weekend away with any 3 people who have ever lived.
Oh, God.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Crap. Let's do this. All right. Frederick Chopin. I've long been obsessed with his music. He was the classical composer that really got me into classical music, and I've always kind of wanted to pick his brain. Like I wish that were even a possibility. So Chopin. This is a hard question. Oh man, I'm gonna go. Okay, we're gonna bring it into the now.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go Brené Brown.
Ooh, yeah.